May I come in,
Yes.
sir?
Come in.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, ma'am.
Please take your seat.
Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon, Saharsh.
Good afternoon, sir.
How are you doing?
I'm doing good, sir.
Please introduce yourself.
So, my name is SAHARS Kumar. I come from Kolkata, the city of joy. I did my schooling from Ramakrishna Mission Vidyalaya, Narendrapur. After that, I did my BTech from IIT Kanpur and my MBA from IIM Calcutta. I also got a chance to work in the corporate sector for a few years. And apart from that, sir, my hobbies are traveling and trekking, solving cryptic crosswords and painting by numbers.
Your BTech
Yes, sir.
from IIT Kanpur,
Yes, sir.
and then you have done your MBA from Calcutta.
Yes, sir.
So already you have two big stars on your, shoulder. Then why you need civil service? You're already there. You have proved yourself. You could have done great in the corporate field, Saharsh.
Sir, the decision came while I was working in the corporate sector. When after a point of time I realized that I have a hunger in me to do something that has a broader impact on people's lives, and that is what led me to seek a career that is more dynamic, challenging, and socially meaningful. And moreover, sir, my father, himself a civil servant, has been a source of inspiration, and he reinforced my belief in the role of public service, and that is why I started preparing for the civil services.
Okay. Let's understand this. Every young kid is saying that I want to work for the people, socially meaningful things I want to do. After you get into civil service, there a point may come that you are asked to run a PSU, right? So, if I give you a chance, how you run a company and still make it meaningful for the society? The company maybe is a private and public owned company. There is a sharing of ownership, but how you make it a socially meaningful entity, and not only thinking that civil service is everything for the society. So how you'll run that company, and what will be your ideas for that company?
Yes, sir. Sir, I believe that what I will do is firstly focus on the employee welfare. That is so that the welfare approach of the company is justified and the company really works out for nation building. Secondly, sir, depending on what the company is doing, what is the end product, in that case also I will focus on ensuring that there is a welfare benefit, ensuring that it is helping in, it is being used for export or being used to increase the supply, lower prices. And thirdly, sir, I believe I can engage in the CSR activities so that really the company can work towards social upliftment.
Fine enough. Without getting into all this, if the company is only making business and creating employment and generating wealth, do you think there is also some social contribution in that also? Even if it's purely commercial, do you feel that the businessmen are doing something for the society today?
Yes, sir. Sir, I do believe that there is a social angle still then.
How?
Because, sir, like I said, the product of that particular company can increase the supply and lead to lowering of prices, which will be beneficial for the vulnerable section to procure those goods.
What else?
Sir, apart from that, the company can work as a job creator.
Yes.
And provide employment to so many people.
What else?
So this is what I can think at the moment, sir.
Tax contribution?
Yes, sir. Agreed, sir.
Major?
Yes, sir.
Yes?
Yes, sir.
So, our Honorable Prime Minister says that wealth creators are nation builders.
Yes, sir.
So why is the youth today not agreeing to that and only going after civil service? We also need to remember that even the corporate sector, the business sector is also doing a lot, and there are various ways they are contributing to the society.
Yes, sir.
One being contribution of tax.
Yes, sir.
Right? Okay, Saharsh, tell me 3 ideas which will be on your priority list once you join civil service, which should come from your experience in the corporate.
Yes, sir. So firstly, something I would want to work on is the amenability to change, sir, wherein it is relatively much lesser in the public sector. Secondly, sir, the adoption of technology. While this is done to a large extent because of the introduction of e-office, but then, sir, in the grassroots level, that inclusion of technology is still missing, and adoption of technology. And thirdly, sir, I want to work towards performance-based appraisal of officers. That is already being done, but then again, sir, again in the grassroots, that is very limited.
Okay. Any idea which you want to bring in from the private, which can have a great impact apart from technology? Any idea?
Yes, sir.
Which you have seen in your corporate exposure?
Sir, something that I had worked on is a Kaizen initiative, and through which, sir, I would want to bring about small improvements, marginal improvements on a regular basis in the working of the public sector. And sir, through that, I would aim to bring about radical change after a few days or a few period of time, sir.
How can we use Kaizen to improve women's safety in India, or the patriarchal mindset, the stereotypes for women? Anything we can apply Kaizen only in commercial things, or it can lead to social improvements also?
Sir, Kaizen can also help in social improvement because through Kaizen, specifically if we are targeting women's safety, we can engage in minute changes. For example, on the first day, we can talk about including women's safety in educational curriculum. After that is done, we can talk about improving infrastructure so that women-friendly environment, women-friendly workplaces can be built. So through that, we can, through marginal changes over a period of time, we can implement really good safety measures for women's issues, ma'am. So.
Okay. You have done your graduation in biotechnology?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We have a bottle of water in front of us. How you apply your knowledge of biotech? What all we can do in today's time in the field of water using biotechnology?
Yes, sir.
For the betterment of society.
Yes, sir. So firstly, we can work towards water purification, wherein countries like the Middle Eastern nations, which are facing issues of water scarcity, they have huge bioreactors of how bioremediation is being done for water purification. Secondly, sir, water as a universal substrate, it is an important part of many biological and chemical reactions, and it can be used in various lab experiments. And thirdly, sir, by applying the idea of biological processes where water consumption is an important part of a diet, we can create awareness of sanitation, hygiene, water consumption. So these things can be done.
Okay. Have you heard of the concept of NPA?
Yes, sir.
Non-performing
Yes.
asset. How do you see that as a problem in today's corporate world? And what do you think, if I draw that to our global financial crisis of 2008, where we stand in today's time? Are we heading towards a crisis? Are the assets being overpriced, especially in sectors like edtech and the car sector? What do you think about that?
Sir, I feel that the NPA problem was a challenge in the recent past. But sir, since the last few years, according to various RBI reports, the NPA crisis has come under control with the current NPA of 2.8% in scheduled commercial banks. And since the 2008 financial crisis, we have come a long way. Although, sir, there are concerns regarding issues like farm loan waivers that reduce the credibility of the banking sector and lead to a lot of losses, although it might reduce the NPAs. But sir, I feel that the banking sector today has become much more robust and we are doing very well in terms of addressing NPAs.
What about the edtech sector or car sector specifically? Are they also funded by banks without proper credit verification?
Sir, while we can see that there have been instances while edtech companies are funded by banks or even automobile companies, but sir, there is also a substantial portion of funding that comes from different venture capitalists. And sir, even when they are funded by banks, the banks do a robust verification, comprehensive verification, and only then the loans are provided. So I feel that the banking sector is doing well in that regard as well.
What are the top 3 duties of a superintendent of custom? In terms of regular duty, what would be the top 3 tasks a superintendent of custom will be handling every day?
Yes, sir. So firstly, they would be monitoring the different goods that are passing through the customs and ensuring that there is no smuggling of goods involved. Secondly, sir, they would maintain a track on the major people who are allegedly involved in smuggling and ensure that they monitor their movements. And thirdly, sir, customs officers are often also involved in raids that are conducted. So these are a few responsibilities of customs officers.
Recently, we all read a news in the paper that one of the actress down south, she was found carrying a lot of unauthorized gold with her because she is a celebrity, and through some access she was escaping the the security and frisking.
Yes.
What do you think about this culture? Do you think airport security there should be any exception for anyone from frisking? Because this is increasing smuggling. Those who are not being frisked are actually becoming the agents of gold and other smuggling from abroad to India and India to abroad.
Yes, sir. Sir, I feel that frisking, like the rules which prohibit frisking for certain individuals. For example, in this particular case, the woman in question was a celebrity and also the daughter of the local Director General of Police, and through these she was provided the access. And sir, I feel that frisking can be avoided, the rules that are there, in immediate situations. For example, when the individual in question is part of the government or going on official business. But then for private businesses, private use, the person should be treated at par with a normal citizen and be subject to the similar rules that are subject to the normal citizens, sir.
So why this violation is happening? Why are relatives of people in power also misusing such position of power? What do you think about that?
Sir, I feel that it is very unfortunate that this is happening, and this often happens because the person in question, either they may not know that their name and power is being misused, or while they might be privy but they choose to ignore. And sir, it requires that the bureaucracy should be sensitized that there should not be any misuse of the power and the rank that comes.
Okay. Which was the last company you worked with?
So the last company was Cast 24 Financial Services Private Limited.
Can you take us through the balance sheet of that company?
Sir, I'm not entirely aware about that, sir. I'll have to.
Any idea about the major numbers of profit and loss of the balance sheet? How the company is faring? Any idea?
Sir, I know for a fact that it is a profitable venture and it is a sister venture of Cast 24.
Will profit come in the balance sheet?
Yes, sir. Sir, if I may have a moment, please. No, sir. Profit will not be. I stand corrected, sir. Profit would not be part of the balance sheet. Balance sheet would include what are the asset, liabilities, and the equity. And sir, I'm not entirely aware. I'll have to read about this.
Okay. Have you heard of something called reserves and surplus?
Sir, I've read about it sparingly, and sir, what comes to mind is the surplus that the RBI has.
No, for a company, reserve and surplus as an item
Yes,
in the balance sheet. Have
Yes,
you heard of it?
Sir, I've read about it, but I cannot recall, sir.
No problem. Suppose you want to join civil service, bright candidate coming from the private sector. If I ask you to draw a balance sheet of the government as on date, what you will be keeping on the liability side and on the asset side?
Sir, on the liabilities, I will consider what are the different loans that the government has taken and the government is supposed to pay. And sir, on the asset side, I would consider what are the different PSUs that we have, what are the different instances that we have provided loans to different countries or different individuals, companies. So these are the things that we'll consider in assets.
Have you heard of something called contingent liability?
No, sir, I have not. I'll have to read, sir.
Okay. basically it is something which is not yet a liability, but it may appear or become a liability in future. So anything you can think of for government today which can be called as a contingent liability, which should come in the balance sheet for government?
Yes, sir. So something that can become a liability in the future. So one would be the interest payment that we have to do for loans that we are taking today. That will be added as a liability in the future. And secondly, sir, it might be that there are certain investments that the government is doing which may not turn out to be productive, and that could in turn become a liability. So that can possibly a contingent liability. So.
As a government organization, should government at all have a balance sheet? Because it's for private. We do budgeting exercise. What do you think about this? As a corporate person, you'll be going to LBSNAA, you can suggest this as an idea also. Should government start making a balance sheet of its own, whether they are doing good or bad, they are healthy or not?
Sir, I feel that the government should also have a balance sheet because it gives us an understanding of how the government is faring. It gives us a more comprehensive way of looking at the finances of the government, what are the assets, what are the liabilities. So I feel it should be done, sir.
It should also cover anything called social liability, because we have only been talking about commercial and government largely deals with social motives.
Yes, sir.
Private will not account anything in their balance sheet which is social.
Yes,
Can you think of anything which will be called a social asset and social liability for the government if we draw a balance sheet like that?
Sir, while I feel that this makes sense because the government is working for the social upliftment and welfare, but sir, at this moment I cannot think of what would be included in social assets and social.
Women safety?
Yes, sir, that would definitely be.
Healthcare?
Yes, sir.
Huh?
Yes.
Those things? Okay.
Thank you, sir.
So, SAHARS, so can you define job satisfaction for me? What is job satisfaction?
So, job satisfaction is when an individual is satisfied with the job that they're doing, the work that they're doing, and it could come from multiple ways. It could be that they are satisfied because of the pay or the benefits that they're getting, or it could be because of the recognition, the career growth that they're getting. It gives them a sense of peace and also keeps them motivated to keep coming back for that job.
So, which of them is missing in your previous jobs?
Sir, I feel that what is missing in my previous job is the sense of achievement that I am looking for, where I am able to contribute even more holistically towards the broader society, where I am able to really give my worth towards nation building and drive systemic change. Sir, I feel that is what has been missing in my previous organizations.
So, have you heard about mineral deal between USA and Ukraine? Minerals deal?
Yes, sir.
So, suppose you are Zelensky, president of Ukraine.
Yes, sir.
So, what would be your approach to deal with the Russia-Ukraine war? How will you, what will you suggest, or how will you come out of this conflict?
Yes, sir. Sir, if I am Zelensky, in that case, I would be very wary of the terms of conditions that President Putin has recently mentioned that needs to be discussed in the ceasefire agreement. Secondly, sir, I would want to ensure that there are appropriate security guarantees during the ceasefire as well and even the long term, so that such annexation or such threats from Russia does not come. And for that, I will try to utilize diplomatic channels like engaging with USA or the Western European nations so that this does not come. And thirdly, sir, I can consider monetizing or sharing the benefits of the minerals deal that Ukraine is doing, because sir, it is a very dire situation where the sovereignty of the entire government, of the entire country is under threat, and these things I can consider, sir.
Okay, so you have heard about Donald Trump. See, he is commenting on Panama, that is the first treaty, on Greenland also, or for Canada also in that context.
Yes.
So, so these are like well thought ideas, or they are just, cooked up ideas, whatever Trump feels, he just comments, or they are, some backdrop event?
Sir, I feel that President Trump is a very populist president. He has a populist agenda, and it often happens that these ideas are something that do not have a lot of economic backing. For example, has also been mentioned by various critics that his economic ideas of putting tariffs do not help USA in the long run. But sir, these are populist agendas and find a lot of support among different sections of the US population and his electoral college. And that is why I feel while there must be some truth and some logical thinking behind some of them, some of these ideas, but sir, there are also ideas where they are just spoken with a populist agenda in mind.
Okay, so tell me, sirs, how will the present world order benefit India, or it will like in a positive sense or in a negative sense?
Yes, sir.
Present world order.
Sir, firstly speaking, I feel that there are both positives and risks associated with the present world order. In terms of positive sense, sir, because of, for example, the tariffs that are happening on China, it might provide a boost to the China Plus One strategy and make India a manufacturing destination. It may also, because of the isolationism policy that USA is following, it might lead to greater relations between India, EU, UK through various FTAs that we are considering to sign. Sir, in terms of negatives, it may be that because of the high tariffs that Chinese products are facing in USA, it may lead to dumping of goods from China into India. And secondly, sir, the focus of EU on CBAM, Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, it may lead to higher export costs, higher prices for Indian exports. So, sir, these are some of the issues that may be India facing.
He is putting tariffs on India also that are going to be enforced in 3 weeks. So how will it impact India also?
Yes, sir. So the reciprocal tariffs by President Trump, sir, it will impact India's exports, specifically those exports which we are charging high tariffs, and specifically targeting, sir, the farm exports, because for farm exports our agriculture market is relatively closed, and it may be very difficult for India's farm exports, for which we depend on USA a lot. So this is a main sector which might face a lot of issues in the near future, sir, because of those tariffs.
Will there be any benefit also?
Yes, sir.
Some benefits also?
So some benefits would be that if we are able to cut down our tariffs on, for example, the textile industry is looking towards cutting down tariffs or is agreeing to cut down tariffs. So that might lead to better relations with USA and cheaper supply of textiles and cheaper goods for India's consumers. So that is one benefit, sir.
Okay, sirs. Are you aware about Anaconda strategy?
Sir, I'm not aware. I'll have to read about this.
Okay, there is something called orangutan diplomacy. Are you aware of it?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Sir, the terms like orangutan diplomacy or panda diplomacy, we often see that in the news when countries which have orangutans, these animals, these exotic animals, they engage in the exchange of these animals or trade of these animals for a limited time period for better relations as a means of soft power diplomacy.
Okay. So this year's Nobel Prize is given for the microRNA.
Yes, sir.
So can you tell me what is microRNA?
Sir, some microRNA are RNA that help in gene regulation, regulation of gene expression. Sorry, sir. They help in regulation of gene expression, wherein there are a lot of genes, a lot of DNA base pairs that are there in the entire genome. So which of those genes get actually transcribed and form proteins? So that is regulated by microRNA, sir.
Okay, so it is basically junk part of DNA, which it is regulating, or the active part of DNA?
So it is regulating the active part of the DNA that gets which of the part of the DNA actually becomes active and gets transcribed, or which forms part of junk DNA. That is regulated by microRNA, sir.
Are you sure?
So this is what I have read, sir, I believe.
Okay, so you mentioned about CSR also recently. So Coal India has taken some initiative regarding CSR. So are you aware about it? Something for UPSC aspirants?
Yes, sir. Not for UPSC aspirants. I don't believe I've read that, but sir.
Okay. So what is the difference between public partnership company and a private company?
Yes, sir.
Public-private partnership company and just a private company. What is the basic difference?
Sir, a public-private partnership company, a PPP company. So that has both the government and the private company stake, and both of them are working together in predefined roles on how to how to work to, or how to function, or how to produce do the thing that the company is supposed to do. Both the public sector and the private sector are involved in unison. Sir, however, a private company is one where the stakeholders are all private individuals and they are working in their private aspect of producing profit for the stakeholders.
So there's something called limited liability.
Yes, sir.
So in which of them it is applicable, or is it something different?
Sir, I've read limited liability in the context of private companies only, sir.
Okay, in context of private companies.
Yes,
only.
sir.
What is the term defines? What does exactly it means?
Sir, limited liability means that for the conduct of the business, the owners of the business or the promoters of the business, they are considered to be different legal entities as compared to the business. So any issue that the business is going through, or any NPA that the business might suffer to, does not transfer into liability for the promoters, or any liability of one promoter may not transfer into liability for the other promoters. So each of them have limited liability in that entire partnership.
Okay, sir. So we are focusing on digital things, Digital India Mission.
Yes.
So can you tell me difference between neobank and digital bank?
Yes, sir. Sir, if I may have a moment.
Sure.
So neobanks are banks which do not have any physical presence, and they are often termed as shadow banks because of that. However, sir, digital banks are could be considered as branches of the original banks of a particular bank, and they may have physical presence as well. But digital banks also provide digital experience. So neobanks largely are only online and do not have offline presence except for administrative offices. But then digital banks may have online as well as offline presence.
Okay, so see, USA is involved in Israel-Hamas war, and same thing goes for Russia and Ukraine war. So Russia is involved there. So do you think there is a role of China here in both these conflicts? Because if USA is involved and Russia is involved, then China will get a free hand and it can capture Taiwan also. So you think there is a role of China in both these conflicts?
Sir, I believe that China, being a good friend of Russia, and both of them have often said that they have a no limits partnership. At the same time, sir, China being an important global power, because of that, sir, in the entire mediation or back channel discussions that are happening, China must also be a stakeholder. But sir, I'm not sure if there's a Taiwan angle to it, because USA has time and time again said that they are willing to support Taiwan militarily if needed. And yes, sir, this is what I feel.
Okay, sir. So one last question. So recently, you know that in the budget we have reduced the tax slabs. So do you think it will boost the economic growth if marginal propensity to consume is 0.2? Marginal. Yeah.
Sir, I do not really recall what is the. Although I feel I have an understanding of marginal propensity to consume, but I do not recall the exact link between that and the growth in the consumption. Sir.
What does it mean? What does it mean? Marginal propensity to consume?
Sir, it has. I feel that what I remember reading about it, sir, that what would be the if an individual's income is increased, of what percentage that they would invest in consumption, and what percentage would that invest in savings. Yes. Thank you, sir. Hello, ma'am.
Sir, you're from Bengal.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, recently there are some issues going on in universities there, specifically in Kolkata.
Ma'am, with regards to universities, one issue that comes to mind is regarding the appointment of vice chancellors.
Okay. Elaborate on that.
Ma'am, what the government has been trying to do is trying to increase the autonomy of these institutes and increase the role of the state government in the appointment of the vice chancellors, something which through the UGC regulations of 2025 has been the UGC regulation of 2025 has increased the powers of the governors to regulate the appointment of vice chancellors. So this is something that the government is trying to counter.
The state government is trying to counter.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Also, in universities, we have seen issues of ragging recently. We have seen a lot of suicides among students. Tell me why there's a pattern where we see ragging predominantly occurs in engineering institutions. Why do you think so?
Ma'am, I feel that some of the reasons could be, firstly, that the academic pressure is often high in the engineering institutions as compared to other institutions, it is often said to be. And because of the academic pressure and stress, it may lead to such suicides. And secondly, ma'am, another reason is that the engineering institutes are often, in terms of the gender ratio of the students, it is often skewed towards greater number of male students. And because of that, the ragging propensity increases because they are involved in such activities more, ma'am. And this could be two reasons why ragging and suicides are often found more in engineering colleges, ma'am.
Can you tell me if you can use cognitive behavioral therapy to help such students?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, such students, if they are facing through such mental stress, they can access something called CCBT or computerized CBT, and through it, something that I had done as part of my project as well, we can create different game modules where they would be introduced to different concepts of CBT, and they can see whether it helps them reduce their stress. They can go through an entire cognitive restructuring, and this may lead to behavioral change and adaptation to the different issues that they are facing.
Okay, and apart from CBT, what can we do to reduce the instances of ragging?
Ma'am, apart from CBT, we need to have something that the different colleges and universities are doing. They are setting up anti-ragging squads, which are groups of students themselves monitored by a professor, by a faculty, wherein they are going through the college, keeping a lookout whether there are such instances or not. Secondly, ma'am, I feel that anonymous complaint boxes should be there, or portal should be there, where students who are being victim of such ragging, they can file complaints. These are some things that can be done, ma'am.
You're also a student of bioengineering, right? What are smart proteins? Recently, the government has formulated some policy and they are trying to take initiatives regarding smart proteins.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you know about them?
Ma'am, I've read about it very recently, but I cannot recall at the moment, ma'am.
You don't recall what are smart proteins?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You're also engaged in trekking.
Yes, ma'am.
What is the difference between trekking and hiking?
Ma'am, hiking is something that is done on relatively easier trails, and most often do not have an overnight component, and they do not require a lot of gear. However, ma'am, trekking is something that is often done on areas where there are no trails as well, and there are overnight campings. They require different equipment that needs, like camps that we have to carry. So that is the difference between trekking and hiking.
Can you tell me a few ethical issues that are involved regarding bioengineering?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, firstly, an ethical issue is because bioengineering is when we engineer new products using biological principles. So it may lead to these engineered goods like devices, they might be very expensive. So the inflation in medical devices in India is 14%, and so it may lead to accessibility issues. Secondly, ma'am, concepts like cloning, these have often ethical issues, such as designer babies, genetic engineering, these have such ethical issues. Yes, ma'am, these are some ethical issues that I can recall at the moment.
Okay. Sarsh, your father is originally from Bihar.
Yes, ma'am.
And you have stayed in Kolkata.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, can you tell me the difference in Bengal and Bihar regarding the commissionerate system?
Ma'am, I do not recall at the
Do
moment.
you know what the commissionerate system is?
Ma'am, the commissionerate system, I sparingly remember, ma'am. I'll have to revise it.
Okay. And I also see you worked with a lot of unicorns, right? Like Cars 24, it's a unicorn?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What is the valley of death when it comes to unicorn? Valley of death. It's a very common term when it comes to unicorns.
Yes, ma'am.
Have you heard about it?
No, ma'am, I have not heard about it.
Do you know what is an undercon?
Undercon? Ma'am, I have not come across this term.
Okay,
Do you know what is Silicon Valley?
Yes, sir. So Silicon Valley is the area in USA where there are many startups that have come up, and because there is a presence of a lot of incubators, and also the regulatory provisions are very conducive for the opening up of startups.
Can you relate it now to Valley of Death? Anything you can think of from there?
Sir, if I may, if I have to take a guess,
Yes.
if we have, it could be like apart from Silicon Valley, it could be a localized area, a valley of death, where there have been attempts to revive a startup culture, but those startups have largely failed, couldn't perform well.
And what is the value of unicorn?
Sir, again,
When a company is called a unicorn?
yes, sir. Sir, a company is called a unicorn when it has a valuation of over $1 billion. And so, value of unicorn could be again a localized area where the companies that have come up have really gone on to do well and become unicorns.
How many unicorns we have in India today?
So today we have about 116 unicorns in the country.
Okay. Tell me a few reasons for the failure of unicorns.
Ma'am, some of the reasons are firstly, while they may become unicorns and because of that have a huge funding increase, but ma'am, the lack of a viable long-term approach or a viable business model often leads to failure of these startups. Secondly, ma'am, we are seeing that very recently we are going through a period of funding winter, and the huge dependency that many startups in India have over external sources of funding, that is also causing many startups to degrade from a unicorn status and losing their valuation. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Saharsh, is Kolkata a city or a district?
Ma'am, the Kolkata is a district as well as a city, ma'am.
As well as a city. And which area is bigger, the city or the district?
Ma'am, I'm not sure. I feel that the district should be bigger, but I'll have to read about it, ma'am.
You said that Kolkata is the city of joy.
Yes, ma'am.
It's also being called the dead city. When it comes to metropolitans, Kolkata is a very stagnant city, and that is the common perception of people. So what do you think is the appropriate term for Kolkata now, if you have to define it? Is it the city of joy or the dead city?
Ma'am, if I have to choose between the two, I would prefer, or I would rather call it the city of joy rather than a dead city. Because ma'am, like staying in Kolkata, the reason why Kolkata is called the city of joy is because according to Dominic Lapierre's book, and also what we see today, is despite the many challenges that the people of Kolkata are facing, we see that they have a joyous approach towards life and a positive approach towards life. And ma'am, instead of calling it a dead city, we have to understand that it is a city which is lost in time, and we see areas where we can really recollect how things used to be, how the world used to be, how the city used to be many years ago. So this is something that we need to capitalize on and really go on to preserve.
But don't you think this is becoming a hindrance to economic development in the city? Trying to capture the time and trying to remain in the past. It's a huge deterrent for progress and economic development.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, these nomenclatures often, and the fact that these nomenclatures and these ideas are causing hindrances to the city's development. That is true, ma'am. And that is why I feel that the government is already, and they must focus on increasing industrial development in the city, which the government has already been doing through the various Bengal Global Business Summits. And there have been SEZs that are opening up, such as the Manikanchan SEZ near Salt Lake Sector 5. And there are different areas of Kolkata like Newtown, Salt Lake. These are being developed into industrial hubs. So we are on the path, and the city is on the path, and it may come to fruition now.
Can you tell me a few industries that have been developed in the recent past in the city?
Ma'am, in the recent past, we have been able to develop a huge knowledge-based sector, IT economy in areas of Kolkata. Secondly, ma'am, the shipbuilding industry that is there in Garden Reach, it is also a very premier institution and industrial sector in the city. And something that the government is working on, both the central government and the state government, is reviving the jute industry. Yes, ma'am, these are the few industrial sectors.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
How are you, sir?
I'm good, sir. Thank you.
What does your name mean?
Sir, SAHARS means with harsh or with happiness.
Okay, so are you happy today?
Sir, I am, because I have been looking forward to this interview, and right now I am sitting in front of this esteemed panel, and I am feeling very happy because of this and because of the opportunity.
Why should we select you?
Sir, I believe that my decision to start preparing for this examination came after much introspection. And I was working in the corporate sector, but I left my job and started preparing for the exam 100% full time. And firstly, sir, this goes on to show my commitment. And secondly, sir, because of the skills and experiences that I have acquired over my education and my work experiences, this make me uniquely suited. And thirdly, sir, this is my last attempt, and I feel that my mains went fairly well, and that is why I believe that I deserve this opportunity, sir.
IAS in West Bengal or IPS in Gujarat, which would you prefer?
Sir, I would prefer being an IAS in West Bengal over an IPS in Gujarat, sir.
Why not IPS in Gujarat?
Sir, it does not, sir, in my opinion, this is not a question between West Bengal or Gujarat, but rather a question in the service. And I feel that I would be able to go on with do more for my core motivation if I am an administrator in the administration service as compared to the police service, sir.
Okay.
While, sir, I would be equally overjoyed to work in any opportunity that the government may seem fit.
What is politics for you?
So politics for me is a combination of the different ideas of democracy, sovereignty, republic, liberty, freedom, that actually govern, that are very important for the governance of a particular state. And yes, so this is what politics for me is.
How is politics different from political science then?
So political science is the study of all these different aspects that I mentioned, but politics is actually the real life application of all these different principles.
What is realism?
So realism is a theory in international political science, which by which we agree that all the countries across the world are looking at their neighbors and other countries with a hint of suspicion, and because of this, it gives the birth to the idea of arms race and deterrence. Because when one country increases their army power, military power, it instigates the other country to also do that, because realism believes that the world is in anarchy, a situation of anarchy, and that is why military strength is the real strength. That is what realism is.
Why do you think that there is a rise in protectionism throughout the world?
Yes, sir. Sir, if I may have a moment, please. Sir, the rise in protectionism throughout the world is due to various issues that countries around the world are facing, starting because of the economic issues, economic growth issues that countries like USA is facing. That is leading to unemployment and reducing the per capita income for various sections of the society. And that is why there is demand for protectionism, closing down of borders, so that the jobs can be preserved. Similarly, sir, we are seeing the emergence of the far right in countries such as Germany. So these are because the economically weaker section of Eastern Germany are supporting these protectionist parties, political parties with protectionist ideology.
Are Hitler and Gandhiji both patriots?
Sir, I believe that Hitler is a patriot, and sir, if I may have a moment, please. Yes, sir. Sorry, sir. Sir, I believe that between the two, we have to first understand what patriotism actually is. By patriotism, we understand that an individual is or is loyal to their country and respects their country, but is also cognizant of the limitations of their particular country. And sir, Hitler was an individual who, between the two, I feel that Gandhiji was a much greater patriot, because Gandhiji was more cognizant of the different limitations of the country, whereas Hitler was trying to enforce his political ideology, that is Nazism, and was not willing to agree to the limitations that Germany has.
What is fascism?
Sir, fascism is a political ideology that believes in the absolute authority of the state. Sir, it saw its birth in Italy under Mussolini, and yes, sir, it leads to a closed economy and autarky and absolute power of the state, sir.
Suppose that you are Prime Minister of India. What is your vision for India in 2047?
Yes, sir. Sir, India by 2047, sir, it should be a developed state, and we are trying to make it Viksit Bharat. And sir, development must come from various fields. Firstly, sir, the different social issues that we are facing, like inequality, poverty, educational outcomes and healthcare outcomes, these must be largely addressed, and we must be in line with the SDGs and also whatever set of principles comes after SDGs. Secondly, sir, we would become a larger manufacturing state, and we would have a huge workforce. We would be utilizing our demographic dividend and providing employment opportunities. And thirdly, sir, we would be a greater power internationally and have greater international clout and play the role of a mediator in various international issues that might be happening.
Okay, sir.
Thank you, sir.
ठीक है, we'll call you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.